G. Oh, there you go. Thank you. So tinyurl.com/GN signposting. So I don't have any more written notes than what I'm going to talk through. So if you want to scribble anything down or make additional notes or have that up on screen separately on your phone or however you want to do it, you can at least see the same crib sheet that people in the room have got. Obviously, some of you are here as Good Neighbours volunteers, some of you are interested people of the public, some of you are referrers, some of you are old people. Obviously, well, as in not a befriender or anything else connection to here. Obviously, people might bring up some quite private things if they're worried about an older person. So I would just ask broadly to save questions to the end. And also, if you are asking questions with other people present, to just anonymize things, so not mentioning specifics of the person that you are concerned about or the situation that you're worried about. Is that all right? Cool. Oh, come on, work, please. Yeah. Oh, I haven't said yes on here. I've got two laptops open, as you can tell, so this is all a technological nightmare. There we go. Right. I think most of you are aware, but just to flag with you, so Good Neighbours Coventry is a project of Hope Coventry. Good Neighbours is its aim is to befriend and support older people in the community in Coventry, really through the friendship that is offered by befriending volunteers and at many local friendship groups. Hope Coventry is a Christian charity in the city, and we do many other projects. A big one is CAP, Christians Against Poverty Coventry, which offers debt counselling and money management courses, all free for people. We also do youth work and bring people together in all sorts of different ways. So that's a broad explanation of what we do as a whole organisation, but everybody is welcome to be part of Good Neighbours Coventry and Hope Coventry in some way. So why are we doing this? Good Neighbours Coventry, as mentioned, is about friendship. We're not an advice service, but friendship throws up people having questions. And that is why we get asked things by members of the public, by volunteers, by older people themselves, by referrers. Where could I go if this person has got that problem? So we're not qualified advisors. I set up Good Neighbours in 2016, and this is just my knowledge of what is available in the city that I've picked up over the last 8 years. And we put on sessions like this about every 3 or 4 months, aimed primarily at our Good Neighbours volunteers to offer them skills and information about different things, but then normally open to the public and anyone else who wants to find out more. So some examples of those would be, we run dementia friend sessions every couple of months. So if you want to know more about how to interact with somebody living with dementia, that's what that session is about. In January, we will be running a session about befriending somebody with a mental health condition. The materials from that have come via mental health first aid training. We also offer bereavement training, active listening training, and lots of other stuff like that to help friendships and older people in the community. So just jumping straight in, tradespeople, something I get asked about an awful lot. And there are no free lunches available. I don't have a magic solution for this one, unfortunately. There are a couple of churches in the city who in the summer have special weeks where they go and offer kind of garden support for people that really can't afford it, to, you know, clear a load of weeds or brambles, that sort of thing. But really, that's 1 week a year type thing. So if we're talking May, I might be able to get something sorted, but the rest of the year, it's quite difficult. Good Gym are an organisation who are a charity in Coventry and nationally. They do have volunteers who can help with very sort of minor practical kind of one-off help. An example would be today, somebody needed a hospital bed putting in their downstairs of their house. And there's a dining room table in the way. Her husband, who's 90 something, can't shift it himself. So you can get good gym volunteers to do that sort of move a table, or the brambles have overgrown the front path and it's dangerous to walk through. So it's not DIY, it's the sort of thing a neighbour might be able to do in 5 minutes. So we do have the ability at Good Neighbours to refer people to Good Gym as a very basic service, but they're not going to do plumbing or electrics or any of those things. Age UK used to have a vetted trusted traders system, and they don't anymore. We have got our kind of own list that we've built over the last few years. There are no guarantees with it. It's just a list of people that we can say, for one of the team or for some of our clients or both, these people did some reasonable work at reasonable prices. So there are some details, but we're not guaranteeing any of those things. Some of those people were in part of the Age UK Trusted Traders list, but we weren't able to get hold of that wholesale. What we do sometimes suggest is to help older people search online and make their own decisions. There are obviously websites like Check a Trade. For local Facebook groups, people say, oh, anybody recommend a plumber? Many of those older people might not be online, but you might be able to show them on your phone or your tablet to say, look, well, this plumber has got rating 8.1, this one's got 9.3, and sorry, it's Good Gym, like gym as in a workout, because the idea is that people do getting fit by moving the furniture or running to where they go. Obviously, tradespeople are not cheap. Do be aware that many older people are not claiming all of the money that they are entitled to. And so we'll look at that a little bit more in a bit, but consider asking them, are they claiming everything they're entitled to? Because there are ways and means to get more money in order to help pay for tradespeople. So that's just an example of kind of that's our spreadsheet. So if people ask us, we send them some bits out of that. Food. So some people, the issue is they cannot afford food, obviously. We have put together a list of social supermarkets in the city. If you're not sure about what they are, it's sort of a halfway house between food bank and a supermarket. So for a small sum of money, usually between sort of £4 and £6, they will provide you with between 25 to £40 worth of food. So that's something that you can be part of. It's like a membership scheme. Most of those do not offer delivery. Some of them might offer delivery if the person truly needs it and they build that relationship, but it's not a general delivery service. Because frankly, some people would also take the mick if it were a delivery service. So they really do reserve that kind of thing for absolute dire need for delivery. The link is on the screen. I did also print off some. We're in the process of contacting the social supermarkets in the city to try and update that list. But it's always a bit of a fight to get new information and get everything up to date all at the same time. So like with any of our documents, if you ever see something you think, oh, that's out of date, please tell us, because we would love to have it in date. We just haven't been told that it's out of date. Food banks obviously exist as well. Coventry Food Bank requires a referral for somebody to access the food. Broadly speaking, they will not deliver food. It would be the responsibility of the referrer to get food to somebody who was housebound. It is something we get asked quite often, and unless there are exceptional circumstances, people are only allowed a limited number of accesses to the food bank in the year. I believe at the moment that's 3 every 6 months, but that might have changed. Yeah. They did cut it quite recently. The social supermarket, people don't normally need a referral. They may need to show some sort of proof that they are on a low income or receipt of benefits. But broadly speaking, if you can't afford food or it's really a struggle to afford food, they will accept you. And the idea is they also work alongside you to check you're getting everything you're entitled to so that you're not in that situation ongoing. So this is just to show you if you haven't clicked on the link. So that's kind of our list of social supermarkets. So you can see there it's got how to refer people on there. And sometimes people say, where are food bank collection points open in the city? The Coventry Food Bank website is fantastic. You can see I did a little screenshot there, but it shows you on a map each day where which thing is open. So if you get stuck, just go on the Coventry Food Bank website. I should highlight as well the food bank hub, the warehouse in Binley, which happens to be also where the Good Neighbours Hope Coventry office is not open to the public. So that's not a point for people to come and collect food. It's just a processing place. So wider food. There are several groups across the city who offer hot meals. We are going to, hopefully in the next few weeks, update our warm meals guide. I printed a few of our one from last year. Most of those are still up to date, but I know definitely some have changed. So those are sort of the equivalent of soup kitchens. Some offer cooked breakfast, some lunch, some dinner, so that we do have a list that we're trying to update in the next few weeks of places that offer regular warm meals. And then there are community lunches, which are more about the company that is provided, but will offer you a very decent meal for not very much money. They happen quite a few across the city. So, for example, there's one at Coventry Station, there's one at Wycombe, where primarily older people go for usually a 2-course lunch and a good chat and possibly some other activities as well. So those are available. As for delivery of groceries, to our understanding, and again, I'm hoping in the next few weeks to get a volunteer to do a ring round to check these things are still accurate. But Sainsbury's and Morrison's were offering telephone ordering services if people can't do online shopping. And we do have a list of organisations that offer shopping services, but they are all paid for. So some of those are quite expensive. The Age UK service, for example, is £25 an hour plus mileage. So they're not cheap. But there is not a free service for going to do your shopping with someone in Coventry, unfortunately. That's a snapshot of the delivery service. So I try and include the TinyURL links on the document. So if you ever want an update of the document, you can say, oh, what was the web address? Oh, it was that thing. So tinyurl.com/covfooddelivery is this list of places you can get your food delivered. So mobility is a big problem for older people. People can get their house adapted. It's not necessarily easy to get done, but if they are struggling to afford things, there is a disabled facilities grant from Coventry City Council. So that's things like ramps or grab bars, stuff like that, that adapts the house. And those things are means tested. So it might be also that the council help the person to get the ramp or the grab bars or whatever else, but they will have to pay for the adaptations that have been made. There is normally as well a condition on how long you are staying in that property. Obviously, if you're renting for 3 months, the council are not going to want to pay £30,000 for a really big adaptation to a house that you're not going to be staying in. Mobility aids, I often see on Facebook people saying, has anybody got a spare wheelchair? Has anybody got a spare walking stick or that sort of thing? I think something to really highlight there is it can be dangerous to have the wrong mobility aid. So it's always really a good idea to try and potentially get an occupational therapy referral, which you can do via your GP, or to go to like a mobility aid shop, of which there are obviously several across Coventry, because you don't want the wrong walking stick to be used. They then fall over, and it's worse than if they hadn't had one in the first place. It's often very difficult to persuade people to get an emergency alert pendant, wrist button, or something else. But it is worth chipping away at, because those things really do save lives, to be able to say, I've fallen in the bathroom, press the button, and they can either be connected to companies that will speak to you, or at worst come and help you in the house, or there are cheaper options where those things contact your next of kin, for example. So different systems are set up in different ways. We are also in the age of smart technology, and sometimes people are quite reluctant to get an alert button because that's something old people have, and I'm 95, I'm not yet old, sort of thing. But you might have better luck persuading somebody to get a smartwatch, because some of those, the latest models, might actually not really be any cheaper than having a telecare button, but will have falls detection technology in them that, you know, notice if there's a sudden drop in the height of the watch and things like that. So it's worth investigating different smartwatches, various brands available from Apple to Samsung or whoever. Mobility involves you exercising to keep that mobility going. There are lots of different gentle exercise classes available in Coventry. I'll come back to our activity guides in a bit, but we have a list of lots of them. And there are also specific ones as well. So there's like dance for Parkinson's, and different physical activity groups for stroke survivors. At our dementia group, we have a fitness specialist who comes in once a month to do dementia specific physical activities. So there are exercises and groups available for that across the city. I did also bring here, sorry for online people, the Health and Safety Executive developed a booklet during lockdown for older people of gentle exercises you can do in your house. So I've got some here, and if anybody wants one posting to them, I'm sure we can facilitate that as well. And also mobility, getting around and about the city. So Ring and Ride Bus was kind of merged with West Midlands On Demand a couple of years back. The service is a bit mixed, I will admit that. Sometimes it works wonderfully, other times less so, but I would encourage people to use it and to try it, because it is cheaper than a taxi service. If it does get you there, then it'll get you there for a couple of pounds rather than £20. You can use it via the app, which is on a phone. It's quite straightforward as apps go. So if the person does have a smartphone, they can probably learn how to use it, but you can also book the bus via the phone number, which I think I put down on the sheet. So you can phone them, and you can book certain journeys in advance. They don't let you book loads of them in advance, but you can book some in advance. Some older people struggle to cope with their house as they get older. And sometimes that might mean that they either need carers to help them in the house, or they actually need to start considering moving house and perhaps thinking about where they should move to. The Which website, as in which that help you choose Hoovers or whatever else, have a really good online checklist on choosing a care agency. So it helps you think about what's really important to you when you're looking at a care agency. How well do you feel they respond to this thing, that thing, and the other? So you can make for yourself an informed decision on which one you want to pick. So I'd really recommend downloading that if somebody is trying to pick a care agency. Warwickshire, not Coventry, have got a care directory, which is a large booklet of all the care agencies I guess they're aware of. Many of those do cover Coventry as well. So we've got a few copies in the office, but also you can both read it online and also you can go online and get one posted to you. It's completely free, so those are available as well. There are various different options for retirement living. It's not just, oh, you have to go straight into a nursing home. There's retirement living plus. Some of those places are really quite swanky. They're not care homes. They've got social group speakers. The one in Elston's got a bar. They're really not places to just go and you know, feel sorry for yourself for the last few years of your life. They're almost more like student halls in a way, I think, for some of those places. So there are lots of lively options in those. I would say you do have to pick carefully. There are some retirement living places which don't provide what they say, or yeah. So it's worth, again, going to visit, going to find out, do they really provide a warden on site, or is it just a telephone number on a poster that nobody ever answers, that kind of thing. Asking people at the place, how do you like living here? Physically here on the table, and again, we can post to you, but you can also order them yourself online. Independent Age have got a fantastic range of different guides, things like choosing a care home, what's the difference between various different retirement properties, how should I move into these places, how do I prepare myself for moving. So help yourself on the table, and if you want any of those, do look at the Independent Wage website as well, because all of their stuff is free to order. Come on, click. Oh, there we go. So yes, you can see a couple of those there, getting help at home, how to pick where to live. Those are just some of their options. Other things for not coping with the house, hoarding is a problem that we come across quite often. Hoarding is recognised by the NHS as a mental health problem, and it's quite a complex mental health problem. It's not an easy thing for anybody to solve. Enabling Spaces, CIC, are the Coventry and Warwickshire organisation who help with hoarding. Either they may provide free help if there's a referral done through social services and the person doesn't have very much money. So if they're kind of connected to social services, that could be an option. But also people can pay. I don't think it's ludicrously expensive for that help from Enabling Spaces. So they, as an organisation, will sensitively work with the person to help them reduce the amount of hoarding in their house. We do also, on our cleaners list amongst the trusted traders, have a connection with a cleaning organisation who do extreme cleans. So they do cleans, for example, after murder scenes. So they'll have seen things worse than anything in an older person's house, and they're really helpful. They're a great organisation to be able to approach for more extreme cleaning as well if things have got really out of hand. The fire service don't want anybody to be endangered, and so they do provide free checks to vulnerable people. We at Good Neighbours have got a referral code for our older people, but anybody can ask the fire service for a free check. So they will go round to the person's house if it's appropriate, check the smoke alarms, check, are they smoking in the house and do they have non-flammable bedding, for example? So it's all of the things that help reduce the risk of the person being in danger from fire. And there's also Act on Energy. So it sounds genuinely too good to be true, but it really, really is true that they offer free energy home improvements for people on lower incomes. Somebody I know recently had like all of her walls insulated, a new boiler and stuff in the roof done, and it was all completely free because she's on a low income and she's over a certain age and she's got health conditions that mean cold and damp are not good for her. So if you know somebody that is suffering with a cold house, a non-insulated house, it's really worth contacting Act on Energy to explore potentially completely free new boiler, new insulation and things like that. Health is obviously difficult for all of us, but particularly older people. It's worth noting that 111 is not just for phoning when you're not sure where to go. That can also be the key to out-of-hours GP appointments, emergency dentist appointments, and newly for a mental health crisis. So it's a really good place to contact. If you can't get through to the GP surgery, it's a really good option to try phoning 111. Also, in Coventry and Warwickshire, they're trialling the urgent community response, which is basically to try and keep frail older people out of hospital, going in unnecessarily. Particularly, that's often if they've had a fall or you know, they're in their last months of their life and their health is just getting a bit rough, or they've got a catheter and that's not working quite right. All these things that might otherwise result in you going to A&E to get checked out. There's this service to try and keep people being seen at home by trained paramedics and not being dragged into hospital. And again, the GPs can refer in, but also the general public can phone 111 and ask about that sort of help as well. Mental health. Older people notoriously are quite statistically poor at seeking help for their mental health. IAPT, or rather talking therapies now they're called, are really looking to reach out to more older people in Coventry, because they know older people are out there feeling depressed and anxious and they are not accessing talking therapies help. So if you do speak with older people who would benefit from that sort of counselling, please try and persuade them to access it. It's free, it's available for them. They're not going to be judged. And the waiting list is actually not too bad at the moment, to my understanding. Other counselling is available as well. So the Lighthouse Christian Counselling Centre is one of Hope Coventry's affiliates. They offer low cost counselling for people of any faith and none, and that's on a wide range of topics. It doesn't have to be depression or anxiety. It could be, they offer things around relationships or anything really. And Age UK, Coventry and Warwickshire also offer counselling. You have to be a little bit older for that. I think it might be 70. I'm not 100% sure. And they will offer a short-term counselling service, which via the telephone, which I would say many of our clients have found really good. So I would highly recommend that Age UK counselling service if people would benefit from that. There are helplines, because with the best will in the world, you are not available 24/7 to help somebody who is in need. The main one I'd really like to encourage people to use is the Silver Line. Its sole purpose is to be available for older people 24/7, 365. If they are the sort of person that feels lonely at 2 o'clock in the morning, they want to talk to somebody, the Silver Line is there for them. They can also offer signposting, but primarily they are there to listen to people who just want a bit of company when they're not able to sleep, or they're lonely at lunchtime, or whenever it is. Premier Christian Lifeline are also a listening service. They offer a listening ear. They also offer prayer for people if that's something that the person wants. So if the person would like prayer or spiritual input and that would make them feel better, you could offer them that contact as well. And of course, the Samaritans are there not just for if you have suicidal feelings, they are there to listen at any time about anything. There's also Coventry Safe Haven. They do offer phone support, but they also offer a drop-in well, just outside Coventry City Centre in Spon End. So that's every evening. So if the person is able to get there, or they just want phone contact with someone local or text, they can go there every night of every day of the week to just have a conversation, to feel safe, and to maybe access some other services. And there are specialist helplines available. I've put No Panic on there as an example. So that's an anxiety charity who offer a helpline there, but there are plenty of other helplines available for specific problems as well. There's also general health specific support available. So in Coventry, we've got fantastic organisations like the Resource Centre for the Blind. Anybody with a visual impairment can access things like adaptations and gadgets and talking newspaper, and plenty of groups that are adapted for them, like cooking classes for people with visual impairments or craft groups, music groups, things like that. There's the Coventry Fibromyalgia Support Group. There are lots of different things for different health conditions. The most straightforward thing is normally to just Google it and see, is there a support group for this? Because most of the time there will be. I won't go into loads of detail about dementia because that's what our Dementia Friends session does, but just to flag some services that are available that I would really highly recommend if somebody you know is dealing with dementia. So firstly, there's the Dementia Partnership Hub in Holbrooks, and that both has a cafe, which is open sort of Monday to Friday, normal sort of daytime hours, where people living with dementia and their carers can go and just have a normal cafe experience amongst people that will understand if the person gets a bit agitated or they start wandering around or they ask strange questions. It's a safe space for them, but they also offer lots and lots of drop-in activities pretty much every weekday. It could be things like the police going there to explain what they offer for people with dementia. It could be different groups going there to showcase what's on offer. It can be Admiral nurses to give advice. There's lots and lots available at the Dementia Partnership Hub. The best way for that organisation to find out what's going on is to follow their Facebook page, because normally each week they post something, you know, Monday this week is this, Tuesday is this, because it changes very much every week what they've got on offer. There are lots of day centres, support groups and activity groups. We have an activity guide specifically for people with dementia, which is on the rack somewhere over there. Day centres are not just for people with dementia. If you're lonely and bored all day, why not go to a day centre anyway? It's an option for sitting amongst people that will talk to you. You'll have activities, you'll be fed. You might get picked up depending on which day centre it is. So it's a really good option whether or not you've got dementia, but it's a great option to stay safe if you do have dementia and you're still living independently at home. Support groups are available both for carers of people with dementia and people with dementia themselves. There's far too many for me to list now, but they do exist. And there are various activity groups. We at Good Neighbours run 2 groups ourselves, Memory Lane Radford and Memory Lane Finham. Those groups are for people with dementia and their carers to come together. We give support to the carers and we give activities and support to the people living with dementia themselves. So those are very popular groups for people to attend. They've got quite different vibes. The Radford ones much bigger and I would say much wilder. The Finham group are much more sensible people who like a good sensible chat about things. So depends on the person as to which one they would like to go. It's worth trying different groups and it's worth trying groups more than once because you never know who's going to be there and what's on offer. Cherish Holidays run coach holidays for people living with dementia and their carers, because it can obviously sometimes be very difficult to take somebody on holiday if they're living with dementia. And so this is a group going together where they can all look out for one another and they've all got understanding of one another's problems. So they're a really great organisation offering that locally. For anyone living with dementia, or indeed probably a mental health condition as well that might make them more erratic than usual, I would really recommend the Herbert Protocol. So the Herbert Protocol is an initiative by the police that's pretty much now been rolled out nationwide, where if the person goes missing, that really helps the police to know more about who they are and where they might be found. So you fill it in preemptively, very importantly, and submit it to the police. So it's saying to them, you know, a photo, identifying features, their name, what they would like to be called, where are important places in their life, so we can think about where they might most likely be found. So it's really important to fill that out before the person starts wandering somewhere. And finally, we have daily sparkles and reminiscence resources. So the Daily Sparkle is a reminiscence newspaper that we as Good Neighbours subscribe to. We use it within our memory lane groups. It offers both, oh, do you remember this week in 1953, this guy was on the TV and this sort of thing happened, or this sports event happened. So they're good little snippets to think about the past. They also offer quizzes, colouring in, word searches, all things that help you keep busy and your mind active. So as I say, we've got a subscription that we use for our memory lane groups, but if anybody befriends within Good Neighbours and would like us to send them a copy of the Daily Sparkle to discuss with their old person, we've got no problem with that because we've got them available. So by all means do ask us and we can send you those. There are wider reminiscence resources as well. Tile Hill Library has got a fantastic dementia section, and so do many other libraries across the city. We have had sessions at Memory Lane where we've just gone to the library and picked out 10 books from the section about Coventry history, photo books, lovely things of Coventry industry or holidays in the 1950s, things like that. So they're really great resources that anybody can obviously take out of the library for free and just use as a discussion point with an older person. Struggling with money. So as mentioned earlier, we run Christians Against Poverty in the city. You absolutely do not need to be a Christian to access that support. There is both one-to-one help with budgeting and getting out of debt or preventing yourself from getting in debt. And they also run money management courses a couple of times a year across the city as well, so sort of in a group setting. But if the older person can't get out to a group, the team would be really happy to use those materials with the older person in their home to help them learn how to budget. If the older person really cannot manage their money due to capacity issues nowadays, Age UK, Coventry and Warwickshire have a money management service where they effectively run the person's bank account for them. That is a paid for service. Broadly speaking, people get referred in through their social worker, but people can pay and join the money management service if they have too much money to be referred in for free, as it were. So if they don't have a son or a daughter or a partner or whoever it is that could run their money and finances for them, that service does exist to stop them being scammed or to enable their bills to still be paid. Age UK, Coventry and Warwickshire also do benefits checks. So if the person is struggling with money, it's really worth getting the person's benefits checked. You just phone them up and say, can I have an appointment, please? Pension credit, something like 800,000 pensioners that are entitled to pension credit are not claiming pension credit. And pension credit is really important because not only is it given to people with low income, so if you're not claiming it, you must be on a really, really, really low income, but it also unlocks many other things. This year, unless something changes, it will unlock the winter fuel allowance. It unlocks things like discounted TV licenses, even trips to museums. Many places, like social places, now say if you're on pension credit, here's a discounted ticket. So it's a really important benefit to check if you are entitled to. There is also attendance allowance. I am no benefits expert, but attendance allowance, broadly speaking, is to help you with your kind of everyday living activities. Many people, for example, claim attendance allowance to then pay for somebody to do their cleaning or their shopping for them, that sort of thing, but nobody checks up on what you use your attendance allowance for. So you just, if you're entitled to it, you claim the money, and sometimes people are worried like, oh, well, what does somebody have to say you've spent too much on the cleaner or you've spent too much on this mobility aid? No, it's up to you what you spend it on. They just check your entitlement and give you the money for it. There is the Household Support Fund, which is run by Coventry City Council. It keeps getting extended, so hopefully it will continue being extended. That is some central government funding for people that are really in dire straits, not just older people. But for example, if the person's fridge is broken and they really genuinely cannot afford a new fridge, the Household Support Fund is a good option for them to approach. And finally, utility companies are obliged to support vulnerable customers. Some of them offer some level of reduction in bills if the person cannot pay. So an example is the Severn Trent Big Difference scheme. If they've got a low household income, the water bill will just be reduced. And also it's a really good idea for the person to register on the priority services with their company, so that if the gas is cut off or the electric's cut off or the water's cut off, they are on a register so that the company knows they urgently need that to be reconnected and will prioritise doing so. Scams. We had a Good Neighbours Befriender meetup in September, and Lydia tells me that 80% of the befrienders that went said that their older person had had an attempted scam on them since they'd been befriended. So it's a really live issue, and we're really glad for Good Neighbours Befrienders because they really help keep the older person safe from being scammed. They offer a sense check for the person to say, I've had this text, this person's come to the door, what do you think of this offer? Some basic things are to register with the telephone preference service. It won't stop all of the scam calls, of course, but it will reduce companies contacting the older person to try and sell them a new kitchen or whatever else it is. You can get no cold callers signs to put in the window or on your door. We do also have some in the office from the police, so if anybody wants those, we can get them sent out to people. The Take 5 toolkit is really good. It just encourages you to take 5 minutes and 5 steps to, if there's an offer that seems too good to be true, take these steps to think, actually, is this genuine? Is this something I should engage with? And we also had Pete Sturgeon from West Midlands Police come to give us a full session about scams and scam prevention and crime prevention in, oh gosh, it was about February time this year. And we did record stuff from that. So if you would like any full resources about scam prevention, tips against being burgled, we can give you those resources from that session. You'll be glad to know I'm coming to the end. So hobbies from home, it's quite boring to be stuck at home. And so do be aware of the Home Library Service, recently renamed as the Housebound Library Service, I believe. They basically deliver library books to you on a regular basis. You can say what sort of information you want from them, what sort of books you fancy from them, and they will give you a nice friendly face and some home library books. So it's a really great service. They will obviously also deliver large print or audio books, so everybody can access those. Independent Age, the charity that do all of the booklets about housing, also offer telephone groups, which are called Good to Know groups. And so those are like, I guess, being here, but with more interaction, but via the telephone. So they have a monthly discussion about scams or some other topic, but it's like being in company with others, but all done via the telephone, so you can be connected even if you don't have the internet. So people can sign up to those chat groups as well, and people can get connected to the internet. So we at Good Neighbours are part of Cov Connects, which is a council scheme to give out digital devices so that people can start accessing the internet and doing things like that. They don't need to be used for finding work or applying for benefits. A perfectly valid reason to get a Cov Connects device is, I would like to socialise more and use Facebook. That's a perfectly fine reason because it's helping you to get out there and get connected. So we every so often apply for devices as an organisation, tablets, mobile phones, laptops, and those get given to people that ask for them that otherwise couldn't afford them. We also have SIM cards and data SIM cards as well, which again can be given to people, and dongles completely free, because if they're not able to pay for that data, this will help them to get started with getting online and no cost to themselves. As for learning how to use the devices, obviously some people don't mind self-teaching. Sometimes the Good Neighbours befriender, if they've got one who's tech savvy, might be able to show the person, hey, this is how you use Zoom, or this is how you sign up to Facebook. We do also have a couple of volunteers who have said they are specifically willing to go round and offer people some digital support.
AbilityNet.
Yes, as well, yes. So they also offer some digital support. There are physical drop-ins around the city as well. So Coventry Independent Advice Service offer digital skills things. Pretty much all of the libraries, if you go in there and ask the librarian, how do I get onto emails? They will help you. So if you can get out and about, there is lots of tech support out there. And it's really useful if old people can learn to connect. It's not going to be for everyone, but it really helps both on a practical note of getting your Tesco groceries delivered, but also on that social note of how do I connect with old friends, or how do I send emails? How about outings then? Well, we have our activity guides, which are a huge nightmare to keep up to date. And I'm working really hard alongside a small band of admin volunteers to try and do a mass update of these. So I'm hopeful that before Christmas, we will have a proper updated set of activity guides to publicise. We've got some there on the stand, you're welcome to help yourself. But basically there are lots of things to do in Coventry. Many older people and younger people tell me there's nothing to do in Coventry. That's absolute rubbish. There are hundreds of different social groups across the city every day of the week, every area of the city, every topic under the sun that you could possibly want. But we would say it's difficult to find them. So that's why we've put together these dementia-friendly, paper-based activity guides, so that anybody can pick up one, say, I live in CV4, what's on in CV4? What building am I looking for? What bus do I need? It should be all there for you, that you can find out where to go for your social activities. People can become Good Neighbours befrienders. We run information sessions on average twice a week across the city and on Zoom. So that's a really good way to get out. There is no upper age limit on being a befriender. We have volunteers in their 80s and in their 90s who are going out and befriending other older people. So it's a good way to get out and to meet new people if you can. Another really good reason why you might want to get onto social media and to start using digital devices is that many older people tell me, I really want someone to like go to theatre with, or, you know, I loved going to concerts and I want a companion for that, or to go down the pub with, those sort of things that are not a group, but you want to find someone to go with. And there are several Facebook groups in Coventry specifically set up for people to find one another, to say, hey, does anybody fancy meeting up for a coffee or to go to a theatre event together? But those are only run via social media and WhatsApp. So you do have to get onto social media and WhatsApp in order to connect with them. There's also the U3A. We've got 3 U3As in Coventry. Those are groups for retired people to learn things and to do hobby-based activities. They're really good. They've got so many different, more, I guess, intellectual-based groups going on. They're not all in our activity guides because the guide will be like that thick. So it's things like local history group, photography group, slow local walking group, French learners group, art history appreciation group. So there's lots of different things. If the person is kind of more intellectually minded, they want to explore a topic, not just have tea and chat, the U3A is a really good option for them. To give you a preview of our Good Neighbours Activity Guides Airtable. So Airtable is our baby. It's our database tool that we use, and we know that searching through our activity guides works really well on paper for people that like paper, and doesn't work really well for very specific requests. So in order to better be able to find Pilates groups within 3 miles of my house, sort of thing, rather than flicking through every page of the guide. Again, we have a group of admin volunteers beavering away at making sure this is up to date. You can see here active, closed for one of them, where we do aim to make this at least public to referrers, if not public to the public, as it were, so that we can say, oh, well, you want a women's group within CV6 that is meeting on a Friday, and then just ta-da, there is your answer or set of answers. So we're working hard to make sure that is all up to date, and we will release it to you as soon as we can. More outings options. Don't forget that coach holidays exist. If the person misses holidays, coach holidays are available. There's plenty of organisations in town that offer those. And if people want kind of specific cultural groups for their heritage, or maybe they don't speak much English, there are groups available for older people who speak different languages or who are from different cultural backgrounds across the city. Those are some that I've just labelled there, but there are plenty of them available. And finally, preparing for emergencies. Kind of like the Herbert protocol, for the Cinnamon Trust, you need to register before you have the emergency. But if the person has got pets, especially cats and dogs, we really recommend they register with the Cinnamon Trust, because if they end up getting rushed into hospital, they have to go into care, something like that, they can then contact the Cinnamon Trust and say, my dog, my cat needs looking after. And it can also be that the cat or dog gets looked after permanently by a volunteer if the person goes into care. But that they have to register the pet before the urgent need happens. So any pet owners, please tell them to register with the Cinnamon Trust. There's loads of help available for carers. Rowan from the Carers Trust is here. I won't list everything to do with carers, because the Carers Trust are available to help with carers and their needs. Some things I would highlight are to register with CRESS. So that's, again, emergency support. Maybe the person's spouse normally cares for them, but they themselves suddenly get rushed into hospital, or they've got an appointment, or those sort of things. They should register with CRESS so that if that emergency happens, they can say, I need some emergency care support so that I can go to A&E or whatever else it is. Carers assessments are free. They are about assessing the carer's well-being and the carer's need for support. So it's not about the person that's being cared for. It is purely to make sure the carer is okay in what they're being asked to do. So those are really important to get. Carers Trust have got loads of groups online, offline, would recommend, and also money, not much of it, but is available for carers. Not everybody is claiming carers allowance who is entitled to it. So please, if a carer is struggling for money, check, have they applied? Are they eligible for carers allowance? And my final thing is not very cheerful. It's important to think about, when the worst happens, what should we do? So the Alzheimer's Society has got a free template of an advanced decision form. So what do you want to happen to you medically when you get really unwell and you can't express those needs? So it's important to think about those sort of things before you get really unwell. Get power of attorney put in place. It's never too early to get power of attorney put in place, but it is sometimes too late. If you've no longer got mental capacity, then it's too late to have power of attorney, and then you've got to go to court and it's a right faff. So it's much easier to get that done earlier before you ever think you will get unwell. And remember, you can nominate 2 different people to be in charge of your health and welfare and your property and finance. They don't have to be the same person. And if you wanted to, you could just do power of attorney for one of those things. But it's important to do that before anything bad happens. And finally, make a will. Encourage the older person to think about where do they want their money to go when they pass away, and to consider any legacies that they might want to leave. Well, thank you for putting up with all of my tech problems. I think we got there in the end, and thank you for spending an hour with me. People here can help themselves